Hello and welcome back to the Alexis Brooks Nutrition Channel, where we talk all things periods, hormones, and women's health. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're watching this, I'm guessing you're probably dealing with heavy periods, irregular periods that are just making life feel unpredictable and maybe even out of control. Maybe your period shows up whenever it feels like it, early, late, skipping months altogether, or maybe when it does show up, you're dreading it because it's heavy, you have cramps, you're exhausted, and all those other things that come with it. And let's be real, it's not just about the bleeding or like the physical symptoms, right? It's the emotional toll too. You might feel embarrassed, anxious, even scared that something's happening. Maybe something deeper is wrong, like infertility, um, and just that you have to live your life like this forever. Trust me, I've been there. I used to struggle with really heavy periods, pelvic pain, migraines, gut issues, the whole gamut. And at one point, I just felt so powerless in my own body. Even though I was a dietitian, I knew the power of nutrition. I didn't fully understand how much my hormones and my lifestyle were contributing to my overall symptoms. But there is good news. You don't have to settle for this. There's hope and there's real solutions that don't involve birth control, pain medications, or restrictive diets. So, during this video today, I want to talk about heavy bleeding, irregular periods, um, and more importantly, like what you should do to start feeling better. Also, share some simple and powerful steps so that you could that you could start to support your body and moving towards more manageable, predictable periods. So that's what we have in store for today. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something. So, does this sound like you? Do you feel like your periods are controlling your life? Like you're constantly frustrated by how unpredictable your cycle is or how heavy your flow is? Do you feel like you've tried everything, like eating healthier, trying supplements, working out, seeing different doctors, but nothing's really working? So if you're over here like nodding along as I'm talking about these things, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. Many women I work with felt the same way before we addressed their root cause of their symptoms. So take a moment and just imagine this. What would it feel like to have regular, manageable periods that don't disrupt your life? What would it be if you were just go about your day without having to worry about leaks or sudden fatigue or missing out on certain important events, or even just work? But I promise you, it's possible. I know it may sound really far fetched if you're in this space right now, but it is possible. And I want you to know that you can have control over your days and how you feel throughout the course of the day and throughout the month. So let's talk about why this is actually happening. So heavy periods and irregular periods are a symptom of estrogen dominance. So that's when your estrogen levels are too high compared to your progesterone levels. So when estrogen is out of balance, your uterine lining ends up building up too much and it leads to heavy bleeding when it sheds. So your cycle becomes irregular because your hormones aren't working in sync the way they're supposed to. But what is actually causing the imbalance? So this is what we want to know so that we can get to the root of things. So there are several reasons that can lead to this imbalance. One of them is stress. So if you are chronically stressed, that's probably one of the biggest culprits. It ends up your body ends up producing more cortisol, and that can deplete your progesterone levels. So without having enough progesterone, again with the estrogen, your estrogen is taking over. For example, think about the last time you had like a really stressful month, and think about when your period showed up, how that actually looked. The other thing is poor liver detoxification. So your liver plays a really big role on eliminating hormones, particularly estrogen. So if you're taking in a lot of alcohol, if you have like estrogen or environmental toxins, that can also clog up your liver too. If you have poor gut health, so your gut health has a lot to do with how estrogen and other hormones are metabolized too. If you have nutrient deficiencies, particularly like vitamin B6, that's really important for your estrogen and progesterone balance. And so it can really throw your cycle out of whack. Iron deficiency is another one too. So that can lead you to feel like really, really drained. And the crazy thing is, it actually could make your periods heavier if you have an iron deficiency. So that's something that you really want to take care of, is to know what your status is for your nutrients. So how to actually balance your hormones through food. So starting with anti-inflammatory diet, I know I talk about this a lot, but having cruciferous vegetables, having flax seeds, healthy fats like avocados, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, olive oil, those are all anti-inflammatory. Ginger and turmeric are some of my favorites too. And also cutting back on like foods that are really inflammatory, like sugar, alcohol, again, that will impact your liver. And taking in a lot of water too. That's another one. Just making sure we're well hydrated. So supporting your gut health is another thing that you could start to do. So again, estrogen is detoxified in your gut. That's part of it. So making sure that you've got your gut health there. So getting your probiotics, whether that be like fermented foods or pickled foods, we'll have some probiotics as well. Managing your stress levels is actually a pretty big one. So stress is a big hormone disruptor. As we talked about, it can increase your cortisol, which can impact your progesterone levels. But doing something that's helps you to relieve your stress, so whether that be like meditation or yoga, something that allows you just to like calm and relax. um, Also consider hormone testing. So testing, not guessing, that way you can really get down to the bottom of what your hormones are looking like and what you could do to improve them. So if through hormone testing, that's when you can find out like what's going on with your estrogen, all of that. For example, me, when I was tested, I like the first time a few years ago, my estrogen was so high, and it made sense why my periods were so heavy. um, so these symptoms could be really frustrating. Like I mentioned, with endometriosis, when I was first diagnosed, I had the heavy periods, I had migraines, I had gut issues, just a ton of things. But once I actually learned what my hormones were and got a targeted plan, like where through supplements to like help to address the deficiencies and just like overall, I felt so much better. It was night and day. And I would say another like big thing that I did personally was address my gut health. So before, I was bloated all the time. I had endobelly. I was constipated. I had just a lot of things going on. Keeping in mind that your gut is like the center of all things. So it yes, it metabolizes your hormones, but it's where your immune system lives. So if you have inflammation like that, it's also related to your gut health too. So I would say those are the big things that like made me feel so much better. Getting hormone tested, learning exactly what it is I had to address, taking care of my gut, resting, addressing my stress. At the time, my stress was very high. So those are some really big things. So I just wanted to leave you with those tips and a bit of an explanation of what might be going on with you when it comes to having heavy periods and having um, heavy and irregular periods, or irregular periods. They can go hand in hand, but it's also possible to have really regular periods while also having a heavy period. But yeah, I hope this is really helpful for you. And I just want you to know that you don't have to settle for any of these symptoms. You don't have to live this way. You deserve to live a healthy and happy life without having to have your period or your menstrual cycle in the forefront of your mind, thinking about like, are you going to leak, or is your period going to start today, or those sorts of things. So just know that, and take care. Take care of yourself. Remember that you don't have to do this alone. I'm here to help you. I'll see you next time.